Hi, welcome back to episode 5 of the Midnight Story, where I, Kiara Sherelle, will be reading you a bedtime story, and tonight will be a continuation of James Patterson's Sundays at Tiffany's. We're picking up at chapter 12, I believe, and then continuing until whenever I feel like it, basically. So, you know the drill. Settle in, get comfy, turn the lights off, play some frequency music. That's something that does help me sleep also. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but I add it as like background music to the videos. So I'm not sure if you guys can tell because I put it really low so that it's not overpowering my voice or too much of a distraction. But I do have it playing in the background as like a nice, way to mellow out your nervous system as well, so you can calm down and go to sleep. You're welcome. Okay. Also, this t-shirt I'm wearing, Pepper Piper Monster Hunter. Pepper Piper Monster Hunter. This is a very cool company. They make comics and graphics. They're so creative and cool. Black owned, I believe. And I got this t-shirt from them. So if you're into anime and comics and all of that sort of thing, and you would like to support a small business, head over to Pepper Piper Monster Hunter. Okay. Are you guys comfy? Great. We're about to start. All right. Chapter 12. Michael was polishing off his second hot dog, savoring every juicy bite, every burst of flavor in his mouth. Man, was he ever hungry, starved, ravenous, and thank God he didn't have to worry about what he ate. Here he was between assignments, back in New York, killing time. He was hanging out, having some fun, waiting to hear what was up next for him. He'd seen just about every movie released, gone to the best museums like the Museum of the American Indian, plus visited most of the donut and coffee joints on the island of Manhattan in single-minded pursuit of the best old-fashioned cake donut known to man. And oh yeah, he was taking boxing lessons. Yes, boxing lessons. Over the years, he discovered so many activities that he loved, a lot of which he thought he wouldn't like at all, such as boxing, but it was terrific exercise and it really built up the self-confidence, self-awareness too. Also, it brought him closer to people in a weird sort of way, sometimes a little too close. 2 nights a week in a seedy second-floor gym on 8th Street, an old black guy with whiskey and peppermint on his breath taught him how to throw reasonably crisp punches, how to guard himself against attack, how to get in close and slam left hooks into the body of an opponent. He'd pretty much gotten used to 18-year-old black and Hispanic kids banging his nose till blood oozed out, and being called old man by his sparring partners, who seemed to like him anyway. Hell, everybody liked Michael. That was his job, right? But he still wasn't used to the wicked appetite he had after every workout. The post-workout hunger was so fierce it could be satisfied only by 3 or 4 hot dogs and at least 2 chocolate yoo-hoos from a Manhattan pushcart. Tonight, he'd ordered his hot dogs and yoo-hoos and was thinking how nice it was to be back in New York. He'd just finished a Seattle assignment with a 6-year-old boy whose parents were lesbians. The problem had been that the 2 women were way too involved with little Sam. He took too many music lessons and too many acro classes, had too many tutors, and heard the question, "And how do you feel about that, Sam?" much too frequently. Michael's polite assertiveness training lessons were put into action, and the two moms had ended up actually liking Sam's feisty new behavior. Michael had helped Sam to be who Sam was. Then, of course, he'd had to leave the boy, and Sam no longer remembered him. But that was how it worked, and Michael had no control over it. Now Michael was sort of on vacation, enjoying himself, looking at girls, bicycling in Central Park, eating whatever he wanted. He did whatever the hell he felt like doing, ate what he wanted and never put on an ounce, and got his brains bashed in twice a week. How could you beat that? As he took the last slug of his second yoo-hoo, a woman passed by, and his eyes automatically followed her, appreciating her curves. Nothing new here, he was always noticing women in New York. He fancied that she looked as if she were trying to be brave, to make the best of it, and he smiled, suddenly remembering the way little Jane Margot. But then, a certain tilt of her head, the walk kind of breezy. That was weird, but nah, it couldn't be. But the swing of her arms, well, maybe. A glance his way. Those eyes, no, not those eyes. It was her, had to be. But there was no way, was there? Could it be? Her hair wasn't as curly as it was when she was a kid, but it was still blonde. She wore a loose black coat and carried a big leather bag, half briefcase, half pocketbook. Michael's jaw dropped. It was completely impossible, but it had to be Jane. Oh God, it was his Jane Margot. She was right there, not 50 feet from him. Michael lunged away from the cart after her, causing the hot dog vendor to stare at him suspiciously. This had never happened. Michael marveled. Never ever had he run into one of his kids as a grown-up. Jane was walking slowly, seeming lost in her thoughts, so he walked slowly too, trying to decide what to do next. He was at a loss for words, ideas, everything. At the corner of 6th Avenue and 8th Street, she hailed a cab and got one immediately. She ran a few steps and got in, pulling the door shut after her. Michael hung back. He knew what he should do now. Let her go, file it away under bizarre coincidences. But that wasn't what he did. Instead, he flagged down the next taxi speeding along 6th Avenue. He said something he'd always wanted to. Follow that cab. Follow Jane. He had to. Chapter 13. The cab driver obligingly stomped on the gas, and Michael's head flew back against the seat. This was so strange. Why bump into one of his kids all grown up? Never happened before, so why now? What did it mean? Closing his eyes, he said a silent prayer, but as usual, got no answer. In the way, at least, he figured he was just like everybody else. Put here for a reason, but damned if he could figure out what it was. One thing, though, the longer he was here, the more human he felt. Was that a clue? That he was becoming more human? And was that a good thing? After all, what did Michael know about himself? Not as much as he wanted to, for sure. He had a limited memory of the past, was able to recall only fuzzy faces, indistinct periods of time. He had no concrete idea of how long he'd been on the job or exactly how many kids he'd looked after. He knew for certain that he loved what he did, except on average, maybe 1 day a month. Also on average, he would stay with the child for 4 to 6 years. Then he'd have to go, whether he wanted to or not, whether the kid wanted him to or not. Then there would be a little break for him, a sabbatical like the one he was on now. One day he'd wake up in a different city, and in his mind he would know the next boy or girl, and he would go to them. Otherwise, all his needs were met. He wasn't exactly human. He wasn't an angel. He was just a friend. And he was a damn good one. Meanwhile, the cab with Jane inside was shooting straight up 6th Avenue. It turned right on Central Park South. Michael's cab followed, left again on Park Avenue. Was she going to her mother's apartment? "Oh, Jane, no, don't tell me you're still living with your mother." He winced, now sure that following her had been a terrible idea. He remembered Vivian Margot, her huge ego, her larger-than-life personality. She'd spent Sunday afternoons with Jane and occasionally kissed her cheek, but that was about it. Jane's school had been a block and a half from the apartment, but Vivian had never once taken Jane there. Michael groaned when Jane's taxi stopped at 535 Park Avenue, but she didn't get out. Instead, the doorman came up to the cab's rear window, and Jane handed him 2 large manila envelopes. He seemed happy to see her, giving her a big smile and tipping his hat. Jane smiled back at him, looking less sad. They even slapped 5. Then Jane's cab took off again. Okay, at least she wasn't still living with Vivian. Michael's cab followed as Jane's taxi stopped again at 75th and Park. The building's doorman walked up to the cab and opened the car door for her. Michael quickly handed his driver a $20 bill, keeping an eye on Jane. She gathered her briefcase and folded her black coat over one arm. She looked, well, terrific. Very grown up, very attractive. So strange to see little Jane Margot looking like this, like a woman. Jane smiled warmly at this doorman, and he smiled back. She was Michael's same old Jane, kind to everyone, friends with everybody, always a smile for the world. Michael stayed behind, a huge cement planter feeling ridiculous, like a kid playing a spy game. But something was compelling him to stay. He heard the doorman say Mr. McGrath stopped by. He said if he would come home to tell you that he would probably miss dinner tonight. Thanks, Martin. He made it to dinner after all, Jane said, but she bit her lip. The doorman paused, his hand on the heavy glass lobby door. He didn't, did he, Miss Jane? Jane sighed. No, Martin, he didn't. Miss Jane, you know what I think? I know. I'm a sap. I'm an idiot. No, Miss Jane, the doorman said repressively. It's Mr. McGrath who's the idiot, if you'll forgive my saying so. You deserve better than him. From behind the planter, Michael heartily agreed. Jane had been stood up. He was now absolutely positive it was his Jane from so long ago. Well, damn. He'd had known her voice anywhere. It was more mature, deeper, but recognizable all the same. And after all this time, she was still getting hurt, wasn't she? People were still letting her down, not treating her like the special treasure she was. What was that all about? How could anyone stand to hurt her? Actually, Michael had been one of those people who had let her down. He acknowledged with shame. He'd hurt her, but he'd had no choice. There had been nothing, zero, zip, that he could do about it. Anyway, she'd forgotten him the next day. It almost made his hurting her not really count. Not like this schmuck McGrath, but why had Michael run into her again? But she had gone into her building now, and suddenly Martin, the doorman, was by the planter, looking down suspiciously at Michael. Can I help you, sir? Michael winced and stood up straight. No, thank you. I doubt it very much. I'll just be on my way. Yes, sir, I was thinking the same thing. Do y'all see why I said before, it gets a little weird, but stick with it, okay? I'm gonna read another chapter. Chapter 14. My mother had done everything but physically throw her body in front of the door to keep me from moving out of her apartment and getting my own place after college. Move out? Nonsense. Why on earth would you want to move out? Raoul is here. I'm here. Jane, sweetie, with me and Raoul and the Chinese restaurant on Lexington, you have everything you could possibly want. Yes, Mother, everything but privacy, a life, and perhaps my sanity. You can't manage without me, Vivian had insisted. Who will help you pick out your clothes, remind you to stick to your diet, help with your practically non-existent love life? Oh, which reminds me, my friend Tori gave me her cousin's number, and I really think you should call him. Apparently, he's an ear surgeon and very successful. But Jane, sweetie, so that pretty much convinced me. As the movers were taking my boudoir mirror dresser out the door, Vivian had admitted a partial and only a partial defeat. We'll try it for a few months, Jane, sweetie, and when it doesn't work out, you can sublet it and come back. No matter how much I might come to hate my new digs, I would not be moving back. Not even if I cried myself to sleep in my lonely pillow every night. It would still be my pillow in my apartment, and no one would be walking in on me to ask which earrings went with what outfit. Vivian had then decided to make the best of it in her own way. When I was away on a 2-week business trip, she had completely redecorated my new place. I came back to my private little haven to find that my bedroom and living room were white on white, just like hers. The kitchen, which I used exclusively for reheating takeout food, was equipped like a restaurant. Professional stove, warming ovens, 2 dishwashers, the glass door sub-zero refrigerator with the pretty display lighting. There was a lone container of fat-free yogurt showing through the glass. I'd been too overwhelmed to undecorate or redecorate the redecoration, but I had managed to add my own touch, a photo of my mother, my father, and me, when I was very small. We were in Greece, standing at the foot of the Parthenon, and we were actually smiling. Had we ever really been that happy as a family? Even for that one day, even for an instant? I'd like to believe that we were, so I hung the photograph in the front hall. My mother had spotted it immediately on her next visit. She'd sniffed and said, "If I give you one of my lesser Picasso drawings, would you consider replacing that sentimental trash?" Every time I came home and looked at that photo, I smiled, but not tonight. A little tight from the drinks at Babel, hurt because of Hugh's continuing thoughtlessness, and guilty about eating too much. I switched on the hallway light and looked at that happy family at the Parthenon. But for some reason, it didn't make me feel any better. The answering machine in my bedroom told me I had 3 new messages. I pressed the play button. "Come on, Hugh, redeem yourself. Tell me you're in the hospital. Cheer me up." "Jane, sweetie, where on earth are you? Are you there? Listening? Pick up, darling. Come on, pick up. I just had the most brilliant thought." I pressed erase and moved on to the next message. "This is a reminder from the Week magazine. Your complimentary 6-month subscription, erase again." One last message. It was my old college roommate. "Jane, it's Colleen. Are you sitting?" I sat on the edge of my bed and eased my shoes off. "Okay, here's a rather unexpected news. I'm getting married. After Dwight and I divorced, I thought I would never meet anybody else or want to. But Ben is great. Honestly, cross my heart. Wait till you meet him. Never been married, works as a lawyer here in Chicago. The wedding is September 12th and you have to be a bridesmaid. I'll try you again tomorrow. Hope everything's going okay with you too. I love you, Jane. Oh yeah, I'm writing short stories again too. Yippee. Hope you are well." I was happy for Colleen, I really was. All she'd ever wanted was to write fiction and raise a family, and now she was getting another chance at both. Yippee indeed. I was happy for her. Really. Mostly. I walked into the bathroom and took off my eyeshadow and mascara with those little non-oily hypoallergenic eye pads. I washed my face with Caswell Massey almond soap. If it was good enough for Jackie Kennedy, my mother had told me it's good enough for you. Then I climbed into bed and clicked on my laptop. I began making contract notes for my movie. I would forward them to Vivian's attorney tonight, and then he could draft a formal legal proposal to send to Carl Friedkin. An hour later, I shut off the computer. I was too tired to think straight and hopped and hoped the notes made sense. Getting out of bed, I padded through the quiet apartment. In the kitchen, I poured myself a glass of water that my mother had shipped over from Sweden. I took several virtuous sips, but already my fingers were tingling with longing. I put the water down. Jane, be strong. I looked at the cabinet doors, the ones beneath the farmhouse slab sink. I reached my hand out. Don't go there, Jane, don't do this. I opened the cabinet under the kitchen sink. You are now officially staring into the abyss. Step away. It's not too late. I knelt, and since I was getting ready to worship, it was appropriate. Behind the Brillo pads, behind the Windex, behind the soft scrub, I took out my secret box of Oreos. Written on the box was, for emergency use only. This means you. I felt that tonight qualified. I ate 4 Oreos slowly, relishing every bite, every perfect combination of crunchy, chocolatey goodness mixed with sweet, creamy filling. My ritual complete, I headed back to bed with 2 more Oreos in my hand. The extra Oreos were gone before I hit the pillow. Chapter 15. Okay, so I'm going to leave off there at chapter 15 because I do have to go to work and it's like 3 a.m. So I'm going to lay down and put on one of my older videos so I can go to sleep. But I will see you guys in a few days. Bye.